I've run all the world marathon majors and more than 14 marathons. In the majority of these races, I was running as a guide and support runner. Of everything that I've learned about running, I have learned the most by far by the athletes that I've guided. I wanted to recap 5 of my all-time favorite memories from guiding. Guiding is the best way to run. I'm able to share in someone else's goal and create a team out of a sport that often can be seen as an individual pursuit. What I love about guiding is that it combines the physical fitness of training for a marathon with the mental skills and coaching of figuring out how to get in rhythm and in sync with someone else. I have to start with the icon himself, the first athlete that I've ever guided, one of my favorite people in the world, Chris Nikic. Chris is the first person in the world with Down syndrome to complete an Ironman. When he crossed that finish line, his story almost immediately went viral. Through that victory and through him subsequently running all of the ABBA World Marathon majors, he's really become a role model for people with Down syndrome and intellectual disabilities about what is possible. And him and his dad and their team 1% Better are doing so much amazing work to help coach, train, mentor, inspire athletes with all different kinds of intellectual disabilities to know that they have a home in endurance sports, that they will find a community, connection, support, and friendship. I was really honored and excited when Chris invited me to guide him for the Berlin Marathon. And what made that even more special is that I got to guide him alongside Amanda Kenny, who is an incredible, exceptional endurance athlete and one of Chris's original guides. So she had a lot of experience. She trained with him and with other athletes with intellectual disabilities. I think one of the best ways to learn how to guide is to shadow someone else who guides, to join them on runs, to talk to them and learn about the specific needs of whichever athlete that you're guiding.
We gotta push you, okay? We're not being mean, but we're gonna push.
I have learned so many lessons from Chris, but if I were to distill it down, I would go with Chris's core message, the message that we literally wear on our shirts every time that we run, which is 1% better. His whole training philosophy was to focus on every day improving by 1%. Every time Chris is out there wearing the beautiful bright orange 1% Better kit, he is showing people what is possible when you focus on those daily improvements. I ran the London Marathon as a guide for retired U.S. Army Master Sergeant Cedric King, who had both legs amputated after an IED explosion. Cedric is absolutely incredible. He travels the world as a motivational speaker. Watching how intentional Cedric was about his own self-talk and his resilience in running the London Marathon is something that will always stay with me because it was a challenging course. Cedric runs using blades and his blades swing around. And so what that means is that when you're in tighter quarters, people might trip on the blade or the blade might get caught on something. And London as a marathon is known for having a lot of people who run in costumes for charity and for Guinness World Record attempts. And so there were a lot of people in bulky costumes and Cedric's blade was getting caught on some of the costumes. And so we had to be very careful the entire race. But despite those challenges, his attitude was just immaculate the entire race. Constant positive energy, constant encouragement to everyone around him. I think he is a true embodiment of a growth mindset. The idea that no matter what life throws your way, whatever challenges, setbacks, obstacles, you can find a lesson for growth. And I know that is so much easier said than done. But Cedric really has looked at everything that's happened in his life and said, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? How can this propel me forward? In 2024, I guided Adrian Button, who is a trailblazing endurance athlete with autism, in the Berlin Marathon. And that experience was really special because Adrian's entire family came and we really made the marathon part of a broader family Euro trip. She had always wanted to visit Berlin. We had so much fun running around the city and really approaching our race also as an opportunity for Adrian to do some sightseeing. I would distill all of my lessons from Adrian into 2. The first is to have fun and smile. I am a big proponent of running should be fun. I always say, I don't have to do this, I get to do this. And yes, running comes with challenges, but overall, I really try to approach running from a place of joy and to always be checking in with myself on, am I having fun? And Adrian really brought joy. There were so many times during the race where she was smiling ear to ear and just saying, I'm having so much fun. And that joy was infectious and it kept me propelled for the entire race. I'm a big proponent of knowing your why for signing up for any race. And so whenever I'm running with another athlete as their guide, I always like to ask them, what is your why for this race? And Adrian was ready to go with her intention.
Be safe, have fun, and smile along the way.
Perfect. And so that became our mantra during the race. Running with Adrian also just really emphasized for me the importance of community and how even though running can feel like an individual pursuit, our success comes from all of the people who support and encourage and pour into us along the way. And so the night before the marathon, Adrian made a list and she dedicated every mile to someone that she loved.
Mile 1. This one's for Bob.
And I thought that was such an amazing way of incorporating her village, her community, the people that had poured into her running journey and her ability to be in Berlin through the race. We got to talk about Chris Nikic again. I have run the Berlin, Boston, Tokyo, and Sydney marathons as a guide for Chris. One of the greatest honors throughout this entire experience was running with Chris in the Tokyo Marathon when he earned his 6th star and became the first person with Down syndrome to run all of the Abbott World Marathon majors. It was so thrilling and exciting to run alongside him and our dear friend Rhonda, who has also guided Chris through so many different marathons. Not only was it such a fun trip in one of my favorite cities in the entire world, but to see Chris achieve that goal of getting his 6th star, especially after in the year prior, he had not finished in time for the cutoff. So this was his redemption moment. One of my favorite moments in the race was the last mile. It was like Chris tapped into this hidden gear that we all have inside of us. And he ran his fastest mile in the final mile of the Tokyo Marathon. And Rhonda and I encouraged him to run ahead of us and to finish solo and really soak in and experience that moment. And just seeing him with a 6-star medal around his neck, how excited and proud he was, seeing the emotions from his dad. It was just a moment that I will truly never forget. Chris is always looking at what is something that I can do that has never been done before. I had a real full circle moment this past fall of 2025 at the Berlin Marathon, because I was reflecting on how 2 years prior, I'd run my first ever marathon as a guide for Chris Nikic. And in fall 2025, I ran the Berlin Marathon as a guide for Robert Norris.
I'm so happy.
Who is an athlete who came up through the 1% Better community that Chris created and who was incredibly inspired, I think, by seeing what Chris achieved. And they've now developed this incredible friendship and this incredible, healthy, friendly rivalry going on when Robert did become the first person with Down syndrome to run an ultra marathon. I think my biggest lesson from Robert is to stay gritty, to work hard, as he loves to say every day, stay hard. That is his favorite phrase. He repeats it after every workout, after every video, and he really puts in the work. He wants to continue to be a trailblazer and to continue to achieve these historic firsts for people with Down syndrome. He recognizes that it requires the work every single day, just like Chris talks about the 1% Better. Robert adds to that, stay hard, stay focused. And I saw that in the Berlin Marathon with Robert.
I love it.
You love it.
It was one of the hottest Berlin marathons on record. It had one of the highest do not finish rates just because of the conditions. And Robert was methodical, he worked hard, he stayed positive, and it was a difficult race, but we got it done. And I was so proud to be alongside him for it.
You did it. I'm so proud.
I did it, everybody.
My entire philosophy around running is that it is so much better in community. And that is one of many reasons why I was very excited to be part of the North American launch of KIPRUN, which is a French running brand that recently launched here in the United States. I had a chance to go to their global headquarters in France and to learn more about the shoes that they're launching, as well as the way that they have built their brand, which is really about opening up running and making it more accessible to all. And so I have just absolutely loved being part of the launch and to cheer on the success of KIPRUN in the United States. One of the questions that I get asked often is, how do I become a guide? And my best advice is actually inspired by something that Adrian said to me. I asked her how she would define a good guide. And she said,
a guide is a built-in best friend.
That really is the tenet of how to be a good guide. It is about knowing someone just like you would know a close friend well enough to figure out how you can support them, where their challenges might be. I think the best way to become a guide is to become friends with people who might need one. And you can join organizations like Best Buddies or Achilles International, the 1% Better movement. But put yourself in spaces where you could organically meet and interact with and run with people who might need a guide. And I think that if the guiding relationship can have a foundation of friendship first, that's going to be so much more powerful and meaningful for both. And then my second piece of advice about how to become a guide would be to go out into your community and invite people to run with you. Chris always talks about how he didn't have anyone to look up to who had done a marathon or an Ironman before. He had never seen someone with Down syndrome. So he didn't know it was possible until he achieved it himself. And there still are a lot of people who might not think it's possible for them to be able to run. They might not realize that running can be accessible to them. And sometimes what it takes is for someone in their community to invite them. Hey, do you want to come on a run with me? Do you want to go to this event with me? Do you want to try out this 5K with me? To realize that it's possible. And so go create friendships, be in community with people who might need a guide, and also invite them to join you.